Hello again. By completing Worksheet 1 and Worksheet 2, you have explored some of the really significant questions of life, like what you value most, what you want to achieve with your life, what you want your legacy to be, how you want to be remembered, etc. This should have provided some clarity on these big picture issues about your life, which is essential in order to formulate appropriate lifetime objectives, which you established in worksheet number 2. So let's briefly review those preliminary lifetime objectives. In this lifetime planning process, we should try to avoid either of two opposing philosophical extremes, setting our sights so low that there's no real challenge or distinction in our lifetime plan. Or conversely, having an excessive wish list of difficult objectives without sufficient thought as to the underlying commitment necessary to achieve them. Looking at the first extreme, we must set our sights high, reach for the moon, if we're going to achieve distinction in any aspect of our life. And if you ask, how will I know if I have challenged myself sufficiently? I like to use a Mount Everest analogy. No matter how experienced, well-conditioned, and trained, and confident a mountain climber may be, you can imagine the awe one must feel the first time the mountaineer actually stands at the base of Mount Everest and looks up at this objective. There is no doubt in anyone's mind that reaching the 29,028-foot summit would be an incredible and worthy accomplishment. Well, I think you should consider the composite of your lifetime objectives as your personal Mount Everest. And if you have built sufficient challenge into your plan, then you probably should feel some of that awe as you view the heights you seek to accomplish. There should be no doubt in your mind that achievement of your lifetime objectives will constitute a life of distinction, however you choose to define that. And in the final analysis, only you can be the judge of this awe factor, and whether climbing your personal Mount Everest will fulfill your lifetime dreams and aspirations. I will point out that it has been my experience that people who really devote themselves to this type of planning process are generally high achievers and will tend to establish fairly lofty objectives for themselves. Let's face it, low achievers are those who are willing to drift with the tide of life would find 1,000 reasons not to put forth the mental effort that this lifetime planning process requires. So I'm not going to spend any more time on the low end extreme other than to suggest that you, once again, carefully review your lifetime objectives to ensure that the composite picture of achievement appropriately reflects the destiny you want for yourself. That there is some semblance of an awe factor in your plan. Now let's turn to the high-end extreme. It's easy to create a wish list of hopeful achievements, but that's not a lifetime plan. A meaningful lifetime plan inherently involves real commitment and action to accomplish specific lifetime objectives. Such a plan not only clarifies and firmly establishes one's sense of purpose, it guides the focus of one's energies, time, and efforts from this point forward. The mechanics of this process will be covered in greater detail in the next worksheets. If followed with discipline and dedication, this type of plan will become a very powerful tool for achieving what is most important for you. And it will represent a huge step in the direction of taking charge of your life and destiny. But first, you must thoroughly understand and willingly accept the level of commitment necessary to reach your lifetime objectives. No one achieves greatness as a bodybuilder, a cello player, an ice skater, a lawyer, a doctor, an artist, a policeman, an entrepreneur, in any undertaking without great personal sacrifice. That sacrifice shows up in terms of time, energy, effort, focus, dedication, single-mindedness, and a great reduction of leisure activities and social life. And the climb for greatness in any field of endeavor tends to mean one's life cannot really be balanced, at least until one has achieved distinction in that field. Thus, some people place greater emphasis on creating a balanced life versus pursuing greatness in any endeavor. This is purely a matter of personal choice. But that critical choice should be well thought out, conscious decision, because it has huge ramifications on your life. Clearly, your greatest commitment and willingness to sacrifice should be focused on your highest priority objectives. Remember, we seek to achieve that which is most important to us, our top priorities. And we have spent a lot of time trying to clearly define what that is. Usually, even less ambitious objectives require some measure of sacrifice. So we have to look closely at our lifetime objectives and make sure that we are really committed to their attainment. After this review, please make any necessary adjustments to your lifetime objectives in worksheet number 2 before we move on to the next phase. The next phase of developing your lifetime plan and objectives is to bring the whole process into a more current time horizon with the establishment of intermediate 3 to 5 year objectives and 1 year objectives, and some useful tools for achieving results, all of which support the ultimate realization of your lifetime aspirations. Few people really consider what they should accomplish 3 to 5 years in the future. And those that do undertake this mental exercise believe that they have developed a long-term plan. Now you recognize that your actions over the next 3 to 5 years must lead you in the direction of achieving your lifetime objectives, which usually have a far greater time horizon. In other words, what we are calling intermediate objectives should represent a significant step forward, perhaps on the order of 25% on average, toward realizing your lifetime objectives. The basic concept is that you should seek to accomplish this initial set of intermediate objectives in 3 to 5 years. And then you will establish new intermediate objectives for the following 3 to 5 years. And each time you achieve of specific intermediate objectives, you are moving significantly closer to the related lifetime objective. So, after you have gone through this entire process of setting intermediate objectives 3 to 5 times, that's roughly 10 to 25 years, you should reach your lifetime objectives listed on worksheet number 2. On worksheet number 3, you will prepare a listing of intermediate objectives with a 3 to 5 year time frame. Most of your intermediate objectives should be derived from your lifetime objectives as set forth on worksheet number 2. Now, let's turn to your 1-year objectives. Some people consider having 1-year objectives a long-term plan. You now recognize that your actions over the next year must lead you in the direction of achieving your intermediate objectives. In other words, our 1-year objective should represent significant steps forward, perhaps on the order of 25% on average toward realizing your intermediate objectives. The basic concept is that you should seek to accomplish this initial set of 1-year objectives, and then you will establish new 1-year objectives for the following year. And each time you achieve a specific 1-year objective, you are moving significantly closer to the related intermediate objectives. So, after you have gone through this entire process of setting 1-year objectives 3 to 5 times, you should reach your intermediate objectives. And this in turn is a significant step toward achieving your lifetime objectives. On worksheet number 4, you will prepare a listing of 1-year objectives. Most of your 1-year objectives should be derived from your intermediate objectives as set forth on worksheet number 3. I personally like to review my objectives and priorities by major category. So we are including an optional supplemental worksheet number 5 for this purpose. Feel free to adjust the categories and layout to suit your own preferences. Next, 1-year objectives will generally represent a measurable change, difference, or improvement from your current state, position, or circumstances. And we will call this incremental change the objective delta. Obviously, one cannot master an objective delta for any 1-year objective by wishful thinking. Rather, we must develop a plan of attack. Really a series of well thought out, specific planned action steps, or perhaps sub-objectives that will lead to achievement of the particular 1-year objective. And we need to establish an appropriate time frame to fully implement each of those action steps. So that is your next challenge, to prepare a sound plan of action to accomplish each of your 1-year objectives. Now, some useful tools. The first step is to prepare a written affirmation for each of your 1-year objectives. I like to put them on 3x5 cards that can be carried with you. An affirmation must be a singular, positive, present tense statement that contains emotion and indicates that the objective has already been accomplished. Some examples. our health. I have shining and radiant health and enjoy superior physical and mental fitness. For wealth, I am financially independent and secure, and my net worth exceeds $1 million. For leadership, I radiate strength of purpose to all around me. You get the idea. Then say them out loud or think your affirmation with emotion and feeling at least once a day. Second, as you say or think an affirmation, use visualization to create a mental image of yourself achieving the objective. Your mind responds best to clear details rather than murky generalizations. The purpose of the affirmation and the visualization is to train your subconscious mind into believing that these objectives have already been accomplished. Once it fully accepts this as reality, it will help you move forward toward your objective in subtle, creative, and effective ways. Another benefit of this process is that it ensures that you will have clarity of purpose by keeping your objectives constantly fresh in your mind. The final step is to review each one-year objective, at least quarterly, and rate your progress versus your periodic progress milestones. This draws attention to where efforts must be focused and may result in new action steps and affirmations. Dedicated use of these three tools will significantly improve your likelihood of success. Now let's briefly review the lifetime planning process and concepts involved. As I have pointed out, life is hard yard by yard, but inch by inch, life is a cinch. So what we have done is broken a very difficult mental exercise into inches. Think back a few months. If someone had asked you to define your lifetime plan and objectives, most people would have no idea how to respond or come up with an intelligent answer. We inherently know that it is an important issue, but the very nature of the question is daunting and overwhelming. Our planning process started with some soul searching, trying to define what is most important to us, what we want to accomplish with our lives. And then we tested those premises to ensure that we had real clarity of purpose. Next, we established appropriate lifetime objectives. Objectives with a long time horizon. These lifetime objectives, the yards of life, may at first seem insurmountable from where we stand today. However, we then established intermediate objectives, objectives with a 3 to 5 year time frame, and a plan of action leading to their accomplishment. These intermediate objectives, the feat of life, are far more attainable. And reaching these intermediate objectives should represent a significant step, something in the vicinity of 25% toward achieving our lifetime objectives. Finally, we established one-year objectives and a plan of action leading to their accomplishment. These one-year objectives, the inches of life, are challenging but clearly within our reach. And attaining these one-year objectives should represent a significant step, again, in the vicinity of 25%, toward achieving our intermediate objectives. Each year, we must reestablish new one-year objectives and a plan of action. And after 3 to 5 years, we should have largely achieved our intermediate objectives. Every 3 to 5 years, we must review and revalidate our lifetime plan and objectives and reestablish new intermediate objectives and a plan of action. Each time we go through this process, the old intermediate objectives should basically have been accomplished, and there should be significant progress toward achieving our lifetime objectives. In other words, over time, we systematically reduce our lifetime plan and objectives into achievable inch-by-inch steps. Concentrate on achieving those steps one by one, which will ultimately lead you toward your long-term vision for the future. Of course, life seldom follows a smooth and predictable path, and some objectives will prove to be far easier to accomplish than expected, and others will prove to be far more difficult. This may mean that your priorities have changed over time and that your lifetime plan and objectives should be adjusted, or that your plan of action and level of commitment regarding specific objectives must be adjusted to get back on track. Stay on course. Do not put your finished plan in the closet and forget about it. Study and update it frequently, particularly your one-year objectives and related planned action steps. And the whole lifetime plan and objectives should be reviewed fairly often, probably several times a year, to keep your long-term vision, your true north, clearly in mind. The point here is to work your plan and make your plan work for you. In conclusion, developing a sound lifetime plan and objectives requires great self-discipline and mental effort, particularly in the beginning. Less than 1% of the population has a defined set of written long-term objectives. This clarity of purpose will give you a unique advantage over others in achieving the results you want. Most of us recognize that it is important for a company to have a sound strategy, a well thought out long-term plan with clear objectives. And I'm sure that you understand that companies like Bar S Foods Co. spend a lot of time on this. At Bar S, our vision, strategy, long-term plans, and annual objectives are well documented. And this process has enabled us to achieve great success in the highly competitive processed meat industry. So ask yourself, wouldn't this concept, this type of thinking, be useful to you, the individual? Wouldn't it be an essential tool for building your future? And I am confident this planning system will help ensure that you maximize your return on life, so that when you reach the age 65, you won't look back and wonder what happened to your plans, aspirations, and dreams. That you have not squandered away your very short time on earth. I wish you every success, and I say, let the journey begin.